Estonia is a small Baltic country west of Russia and south of Finland. It is a country with an amazing story, but not many people know it. In 1939, the Soviets occupied Estonia, a country with great traditions and a love for the arts. The Soviets caused great hardship, but when Gorbachev came into power in the Soviet Union, there was more freedom to speak out. Ordinary Estonians took advantage of this by protesting and gathering together to sing. In 1991, they gained freedom by what is now called Estonia's Singing Revolution. It is this freedom in Estonia that started a movement that unraveled the Soviet Union. This is their story. Estonia has been occupied so many times by practically everyone in the area. Estonia has belonged to Swedes, Russians, Germans, and Poles alike. The most likely reasons for these occupations is because of Estonia's great port to the sea and beyond, its fishing, and great strategical placement for any European powers. At the start of World War II, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was made. This pact had secret clauses that split Europe between Russia and Germany. Because of this pact, Estonia was to belong to Russia. During the war, Soviet soldiers entered Estonia, and people began to be killed or deported to camps like the ones in Siberia. The reasons for deportation were often unknown, and many people died in the camps. This first year was called the Year of Suffering. In 1941, Hitler betrayed Stalin and the pact they made. Russia retreated, and Estonia now belonged to Germany. As Germany began to lose the war, though, Estonia once again belonged to the Soviets. In fear, many people began to flee the country, and people who were caught were either killed or imprisoned. Some died trying to get away. Soon, World War II ended. Though the war had ended for most of the world, there was still hardship in Estonia. Intense periods of Russification followed the war. Any resistors were taken to Siberia. Through this time, though, the tradition of the song festival, called Laulupidu in Estonian, still continued. The Soviets took advantage of this festival to say that Estonians were happy and, in fact, singing about being part of the Soviet Union. Songs for the festival had to be checked, but one song did slip by the censors. This was a song that put into tune a well-known Estonian poem. This song became the unofficial anthem and is called Ma isu ma on minu on. During the 50s and 60s, some traditions, even innocent ones such as celebrating Christmas, were not allowed. Things talked about at home were not to be talked about elsewhere. In the year 1969, it was the 100th anniversary of the Song Festival. At the end of the festival, people were allowed to sing traditional songs. They were not, however, allowed to sing Mu Isama on Minu Arn. It was sung anyways. A Soviet band tried to drown it out, but when you have that many people singing all at once, singing without the help of a conductor, it is impossible to stop. The Soviets eventually allowed the writer of the song on stage, and he proceeded to conduct the crowd. In 1985, Gorbachev entered into power. He made many modifications that then allowed change and hope for many Estonians. Gorbachev was more open to free speech and allowed Estonia's own government to make more decisions. With a slight let-up of restrictions, some groups decided it was time to act. People successfully stopped a strip mine, and next, people started to talk openly about politics. A demonstration was planned, but they couldn't publicize it in fear of repercussions. Since it was not publicized, the organizers believed that only a few people would come. The crowd that gathered was of thousands of people. They talked about the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The Soviets threatened consequences, but did not act. June 10th started the Night Song Festivals. A concert was being held for a rock band, and they began to sing very patriotic songs. When the concert time ended, people walked to the Song Festival grounds and continued singing there. Hidden flags started to be raised in pride. Every night, people came back and sang, and the crowds gathered until, at the end of the week, there were around 100,000 people gathered. On September 11th, a demonstration was organized by a group called the Popular Front at the Song Festival grounds. They let Heritage Society members speak, thinking that they would be less radical in the ideas of their speeches. Heinz Falk made a more radical speech. He openly said that Estonia could be a free country again. Around 300,000 to 400,000 people attended this event. On November 16, 1988, it was decided that Estonian laws would trump laws made by the USSR. Following that, in January of 1989, Estonian became the official language of Estonia. In February of 1989, the Estonian flag was raised once again over Pike Herman Tower in Old Town. August held an amazing event for the Baltic states. On the 50th anniversary of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, August 23, 1989, the event called the Baltic Chain occurred. This was a human chain stretching for over 600 kilometers over the 3 Baltic states. Everyone, together, was defying the Soviet Union and how it had taken root in their lives. This added to the growing number of peaceful protests that altogether created change. On December 24, 1989, Gorbachev admitted to the secret clauses in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the ones that split Europe between Germany and Russia. Because of this statement, people started to register themselves as Estonian citizens because the occupation wasn't technically legitimate. These citizens showed that there was a need for Estonia to become a free country, and in February of 1990, they voted for a Congress of Estonia. During this, another group had emerged. This group was called Interfront and was basically an organization of Russians who now lived in Estonia, and if things went back to the way they were before the occupation, they knew things would be difficult for them. Frustrated over a law making it illegal to raise the Soviet flag, they stormed the Estonian Parliament building. They broke through and fighting could have easily started, but it did not. People stepped aside and the Interfront members passed through. In the end, the Interfront demonstration ended peacefully. In Russia, Gorbachev agreed to restructuring things to try to hold the USSR together. One day before he was supposed to sign, he was put under house arrest because of an attempted coup. Since the army was working under Yeltsin, tanks rushed across the border into Estonia, and knowing what they were most likely going to do, people made a plan to defend any broadcasting towers. If the Soviets got a hold of them, there wouldn't be any way for Estonians to get the word out. This is an interview from Jan Mick, who was living in Tartu during the Singing Revolution.
And these tanks, I remember one night were moving some 200 meters away from our house. We were soon living in the house, Maisi Street, 38. And also night, the tanks moved to Tallinn.
The Supreme Council in Moscow invited the Congress of Estonia to discuss a resolution to what was happening. They unanimously agreed at 11:03 p.m. This resolution was Estonia seceding from the Soviet Union. This did not, however, stop the conflict and the tanks kept advancing. When the tanks arrived at a TV tower, people who were just passers-by came and stood in the street to form a human shield. They did not have any weapons to defend themselves, all they had were their bodies to defend the tower. Since there was lots of confusion in Moscow with Gorbachev's arrest, the army was confused too. They waited a crucial 12 hours to decide what to do. Since Yeltsin had stepped in for Russia, he declared that Russia was also seceding from the Union, just like Estonia had the night before. The troops were ordered to leave the broadcast tower, and the tanks left. The Soviet Union continued to crumble as Estonia's freedom was followed by that of Latvia and Lithuania, along with 8 additional Soviet republics. Eventually, the entire Soviet Union dissolved, and the Cold War was over. With the Soviet Union gone, everything changed. For Estonia, everyone's entire lives were altered. With bravery from some, tactical planning from others, and ordinary citizens gathering together to sing, many futures have changed and people can hope. No one single event in the singing revolution can be credited with this momentous change, though. Instead, it was the accumulation of many peaceful protests that led to change. Some people's lives have changed in ways they do not like, though. Russians in Estonia are not treated with the greatest respect. For example, you cannot become an Estonian citizen without passing a rigorous language test. As it moves forward, Estonia will work out these problems, without the shadow of the Soviet Union. In the end, Estonia gaining freedom was an event that caused many changes for the entire country and others by being the first to bring the push for freedom into real freedom, and it was the singing that sparked a revolution that changed lives forever.